Everybody is talking about Bitcoin right now, but nobody is talking about Ethereum. Little do they know that the major Bitcoin cycle is already finished and that the crypto whales are moving their money from Bitcoin into Ethereum and other altcoins. However, be careful. In this video, I'll reveal to you the next targets. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Simon from Market Paradise. So together, you and me, in the previous and this week we have been following Ethereum. With the highest probability, we knew that Ethereum will go towards this level and then we will pump to the upside. I have been updating you on daily basis about how the price action is progressing, ladies and gentlemen. After that, on Tuesday, finally, we have got that retest of that level we have been focusing on, and afterwards on the next update, I have told you that with the highest probability, we will go towards this resistance on a low time frame perspective. And then in the latest video I told you we are at resistance. If we start getting across below this moving average trend line, we will go towards this support zone. However, ladies and gentlemen, we have crossed below this moving average trend line. We have got a rejection from this resistance because of it, but we didn't reach the support zone. Something very interesting is cooking right here, and we will be talking about this in today's video. And where with the highest probability is Ethereum gonna go next. In the previous video, we have also discussed where the crypto whales are moving their money. We have been discussing the money flow. I've told you how the whales firstly accumulate slowly and then the retail follows. I've also discussed with you Bitcoin in the previous video and the reasoning behind why before Bitcoin hits $240,000 by the end of 2026, with the highest probability, we will firstly go towards $44,000. If you haven't watched the previous video, go and watch it right now or after you are finished watching this video, because all the insights I'm sharing with you can really make you a better and more professional trader. However, in this video, the main question will be about what will be the next targets of Ethereum on ultra, high, medium and low time frames. So let's first of all zoom out a little bit on Ethereum and let's have a look on how the weekly time frame is looking. As you know, I do believe that we have finished the bearish cycle in Ethereum because we have created this final expanded flat pattern, as you know from our website microstructures.com. This is a corrective mode wave, and because we have understood that the C wave really follow the Elliott wave guidelines, with the highest probability we determined the bear trend is over and we are starting a new impulse higher. And speaking about the impulse, I do believe that from the higher degree perspective, right now we are starting the first wave of an impulse that will take us towards $9,000. Ladies and gentlemen, I've told you about $240,000 Bitcoin by the end of 2026, and right now I'm telling you about $9,000 of Ethereum before the end of 2025, because by the end of 2026 I do believe that Ethereum can go as high as $19,000. And in the next video I will be explaining exactly the calculations behind these targets, so make sure you are subscribed not to miss the new video. However, right now we firstly need to finish the impulse that will take us with the highest probability towards $9,000. So as you know, the impulsive mode waves subdivides itself into 5 smaller waves. So to keep on confirming if everything is playing out based on our predictions, we need to be able continuously calculate the correct number of subwaves so we can make a better trading decisions, ladies and gentlemen. And I do believe right now we are in this first motive mode wave, ladies and gentlemen. So let's calculate the subwaves of the first motive mode wave. So the first motive mode wave is right here. I've already drawn a channel of the newly progressing impulse. So as you can see right now, if I zoom in into high time frame so we can basically calculate the subwaves correctly, you can see that we indeed created a first wave right here, second wave right here, third wave finished right here, and then we started the fourth wave in an expanded triangle about which we will be talking about. And right now with the highest probability we are starting the final fifth wave, right? With the highest probability we'll finish at around $3,300. But everything on a high time frame degree firstly needs to play out. So let's calculate the probability points, alright? Are we right now more bullish or more bearish? So first of all, as a professional trader, what always interests me is when we are going towards and we are retesting some support or a resistance, what is the volume doing, okay? And as you can see right now, as we have went to the downside and as we have been creating the bottom, the volume was declining, alright? And we have actually created the bottom already on a rising volume. So this adds to the probability points for bulls, ladies and gentlemen, because it suggests that the bears are very weak and the bulls easily took over the price action after retesting the support right here. Together with that, we also have a bullish hammer candlestick pattern, ladies and gentlemen, after any bigger or smaller bear trend. This is a very positive sign because it most of the times marks a reversal. Again, if we would go deeply into this with an X-ray, you would see that the bulls been taken over. So there was some selling pressure first of all, but bulls took over very quickly, and that basically creates this wick and very small body of the candle. So it's considered bullish because some big boys are entering at the bottom, right? So this is also adding to the probabilities of the bulls. So first of all, we have the retest of the moving average trend line right here together with the Fibonacci retracement levels, everything I have been talking about in the previous videos, right? Ascending trend line support, descending, expanded triangle, trend line, etc. Everything we have retested with a decline in bearish volume, all right, which is bullish. And we have also created almost like a double bullish hammer candlestick pattern because this is also looking like a bullish hammer candlestick pattern. So all of this is nice. However, there is some more. If we take a look at RSI, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a look at this. This is very interesting because let's have a look what happened in November 2024. Can you see the similarities? We have pumped high to the overbought area, then below the moving average trend line of the RSI indicator, created a bullish divergence with the price action, and then started to move to the upwards back to the overbought zone. However, the price action went up ridiculously, and that actually created the final wave of the upside. All right, this is something what you want to see, this kind of exhaustion before a new bear trend. All right, let's have a look what we have right now. We have the same thing, a pump towards the overbought area, a dump below the moving average trend line of the RSI indicator, and then we have a hidden bullish divergence, ladies and gentlemen, because as you can see, the RSI is making lower low. However, the price action is making higher low. So from the textbook example that you can find on our website, you can see very clearly that when the indicator is making lower low, but the price action is making higher low, that is a hidden bullish divergence, and basically saying that somebody is selling, right? The momentum is there. However, the price doesn't follow. So somebody bigger is actually absorbing the selling pressure that is most likely created by retail, which is the dump money, because they are working with extreme amount of leverage and they are trying to push the price down. That creates the momentum, right? Because loads of market orders are coming in. However, somebody is absorbing the selling pressure. That is why the price cannot make a lower low as the indicator made. So this is a hidden bullish divergence and just adds to the probabilities that we might go higher before starting to get rejected. And that means that basically we can assume that it adds up to the probabilities of that indeed we are creating a 5 moves to the upside, and indeed we are creating a first higher degree wave of our higher degree impulse that will take us towards $9,000. But that's not all. Let's have a look at the similarities that we have right here in November 2024, because this is not all, ladies and gentlemen. After we have created the same pattern on the RSI indicator, we have also retested the moving average trend line, as you can see, with this move to the downside. Well, and then we have started to go to the upside, and by how much? Let's have a look. Exactly from the bottom right here towards the top, around 33%, ladies and gentlemen. And you know that we have been updating and analyzing this resistance very deeply in the previous videos, okay? And let's have a look right now from the current market price after retesting the moving average trend line to the resistance that we have analyzed. Let's have a look, ladies and gentlemen. Also, it takes us around 33%, which is quite crazy, but it just adds up to the probabilities that we might go really finish the 5th wave right here. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a certain. We are just working with the probabilities as a professional traders, all right? That's very important. Another thing, stochastic RSI. Let's have a look at the similarities, ladies and gentlemen. In absolute oversold area, right now we are entering an oversold area as well on stochastic RSI. What about MACD, however? There is some problem. Let's have a look. A bearish cross, okay? Bearish cross, this is not good. But let's have a look what happened right here in November 2024. We also had an attempt of a bearish cross, ladies and gentlemen. gentlemen. However, afterwards, we have started to create another higher high. From this high, another higher high. So this is some points for bears. However, let's have a look at the similarities, right? And we still doesn't have any bearish divergence on the histogram. So a little bit bad sign, but not that much. But what can increase the probabilities of the next move is actually looking at the even lower time frame. So let's zoom in inside of medium time frame. On the high time frame right now, it really adds up that the probabilities are more likely for bulls, that we will start going to the upside towards this resistance right now. However, everything on medium time frame needs to be playing out as well. Okay, so if we really want to start pumping from here towards that $3,000 that will basically finish the first high degree wave, ladies and gentlemen, we need to have confirmations from medium time frame. So let me shift towards 4-hour time frame, and you already know that we are right here forming the expanded triangle that already finished with the E wave exactly right here. That was also a probability point system for us that helped us to understand, all right, this is going to be an E wave. Here is the support with the highest probability. We will see a reversal from here, right? So this was the expanding triangle. As you know from our website, this is exactly how it looks like. So I do believe that the fourth wave of an impulse with the expanded triangle was finished, all right? And right now, indeed, we are starting a new impulse, because you understand that the fifth wave of an impulse also subdivides itself into another impulse, okay? It's absolutely beautiful. It's like atoms. The smaller part is the same as the big part, all right? And they together form a big organism. This is like a wave formula as well, because if you would go even deeper, this smaller wave also subdivides itself into 5 smaller waves, right? The motive mode waves are 5 wave structures. The corrective waves are 3 wave structures or variations of thereof. However, right now we are in the 5th wave. So to get a confirmation that we are indeed creating the 5th wave that will take us above the previous end of the 3rd wave, we need to be calculating the subwaves, all right? That's a great helper. So I do believe right now we have finished the 1st wave right here at around $2,700, ladies and gentlemen, right here. And I do believe that right now we are finishing secondary wave, and there is a few indications for why, all right? First of all, what can you see? Tell me, can you see something interesting here? What about this? Another bullish hammer candlestick pattern, okay? A great indication of a potential reversal, all right? So that's add up to the probabilities for bulls. What else? If we take a look at RSI, ladies and gentlemen, if we take a look at RSI right here, what can we see is another divergence, all right? Momentum is increasing, however, the price action is not following. Together with that, we are having a throw under. What does it mean? It means that we are below this channel, below the moving average trend line on 4-hour time frame, which is creating the assumption between a lot of traders that we might start to go lower, right? But because you understand the Elliott wave theory and the throw under and throw over guidelines, we can assume that this is just a fake out to get a liquidity, selling liquidity on which the whales can accumulate, right? And because of the bullish hidden divergence, this is high probability thing. Together with that, you can see the VPVR, how the volume profile is increasing at these prices, right? So something is cooking. And if this is indeed the throw under, we firstly need to have a confirmation to make a clear observation that indeed this is the end of the 2nd wave. So this was the 1st wave, 2nd wave, and we can start the 3rd wave higher, right? What we need to have for confirmations is a reclaim of this moving average trend line of this channel. So a break and retest, and then we can with a 100% certainty say that we are going much, much higher. And basically because right here we have the throw under, the alternation guidelines from the Elliott wave theory basically tell you that once we have the 3rd wave, it will have indeed a throw over as well. But not only that, also the final 5th wave will have a throw over. So this is something great to know and calculate with if you know about this guideline. So then you can properly take profits and position yourself into some swing short positions. So ladies and gentlemen, the probabilities on medium time frame are also signaling that bulls might win this, all right? But to make sure that with the highest probability, we can say that this is really the end of the secondary corrective wave, which is basically this one, right? We need to make sure that we are creating some corrective mode wave. And you know that we have like 7 to 9 corrective mode waves. So by shifting our focus on low time frame, we need to understand what kind of corrective mode wave we have just created to make sure that this is the bottom and we will not go lower, because we can go lower, ladies and gentlemen. So we need to understand if we are creating some corrective mode pattern. So we will take a look at this, but first let me shift our focus towards USDT dominance, because as you know, if you can understand USDT dominance, if it's bearish or bullish, it can help you to analyze altcoins and Bitcoin. Because if the USDT dominance is bullish, it means that the money are flowing from the crypto market into stablecoins, right? So that is bearish for Ethereum, Bitcoin and altcoins. However, if it's bearish, it's good for crypto, because the trend suggests that the money will keep flowing from the USDT into crypto. Henceforth, by understanding USDT dominance, it can work like another probability point system, alright? So unlike Ethereum, the USDT dominance is right now at resistance and inside of an impulse itself. However, this is a bear trend impulse, alright? Because right here we have finished the 4th wave and right now we are also starting a 5th wave. However, unlike Ethereum, it's going to be higher. The USDT dominance has a bearish final 5th wave that I do believe will finish around this support zone right here. And because it also subdivides itself into 5 smaller waves, the 5th wave, right? We can understand that probably right now we are in the 1st wave. We have finished the 1st wave because this was a nice motive mode price action. And right now we have finished or finishing the secondary wave, alright? And you know what comes next, right? The 3rd wave. However, how can we say if this is the end of the secondary wave? How can we say for sure that USDT dominance cannot go a little bit to the upside? We cannot say it for sure, right? But let's understand the probability. So first of all, we have retested a Fibonacci retracement level from this cycle right here, 786, alright? As you can see, it worked nicely as a resistance. USDT dominance got rejected from it. Together with that, we are creating a bearish divergence on the MACD histogram, as you can see right here. The histogram is making a higher high, however the price action is making lower high, alright? That's a bearish divergence and it's just add up to the probabilities that this was the high. Another thing, if I zoom in inside of a 1 hour time frame, we can see that we have actually created a zigzag formation, right? Which is one of the corrective mode waves. Henceforth, it adds to the probabilities that indeed this is the end and you might start going in an opposite direction. However, it's not a certainty, it's just a probability, alright? There is still possible surprise movement where this will subdivide itself into something else than just a simple zigzag, and we can go and retest a little bit higher towards this 0.618 Fibonacci retracement level. However, right now the probabilities suggest that this is probably finished and we might start going lower. So again, this just adds up to our probabilities that Ethereum can indeed start going higher. So right now, let's zoom in inside of the low time frame on Ethereum. And what can we clearly see right here? That these are the subwaves of the first higher degree wave, right? And right now we are starting to finish, or we are still in creation of the secondary wave. So I do believe that a possibility is that the secondary wave finished right here. However, it can also finish right here. So where are the probabilities? Is it more likely that we are gonna drop more, or that we have finished the secondary wave right here? Well, first of all, let's take a look if we have some corrective mode wave pattern formed at the secondary wave. And what I can see is a clear zigzag formation, right? We can also see another bullish hammer candlestick pattern that again adds up to the probabilities of a reversal higher, but that's not all. We have also dropped exactly to one of the most important Fibonacci retracement zones, and that is 0.618 Fibonacci retracement and 0.786, alright? So as you can see, this zone perfectly worked as a support, ladies and gentlemen. So this is yet another support Ethereum is right now reacting well to. But that's not all. If I delete this so we can have a clear view on what's going on, we can actually see that we are creating a beautiful pattern. Do you know what it is? Let me chart it a little bit. So basically I connect a trend line with 2 points from the high and from the lower super high right here, and I put the slope to the price action that we are having right now, okay? So we can see that we are breaking from this trend line, right? What else? We can actually connect another two highs from the recent price action right here, right? That's our neckline. And what we are creating, this is called head and shoulders pattern, ladies and gentlemen. This is a left shoulder, this is a right shoulder, this is our heady, okay? And right now we can see that we are breaking above the neckline. We are reclaiming the neckline by having a successful retest. And right now with the highest probability, we can indeed go higher if we will sustain the base above the neckline. Let me just put this away. So as you know from our website, this is a textbook example of our head and shoulders, inverted head and shoulders pattern, ladies and gentlemen. We have the trend line break, we have the neckline reclaim as well, break and retest. So with the highest probability, we can continue to go to the upside. But how much upside? Well, we can calculate it as well. Let me just show you this counting tool. And if I take the depth of the head and to the neckline and put it to the breakout point, we can actually see that the minimum target is around $2,600, ladies and gentlemen. All right, that's a minimum target. But because we understand that we are also in the finish line of the secondary wave, and if we are about to cross above this high, it will add up to the probabilities that this will accelerate the start of the third wave. All right, and the third wave I believe will finish right here. Then we have also fourth and fifth, right? And that will be basically the creation of the higher degree third wave we will have on medium time frame that I do believe can end up at around 3,300. Then a fourth wave and a fifth wave with the throw over. This is just a rough price action analysis, right? So however, this breakout of this inverted head and shoulders pattern can really accelerate things up. All right, so I'm looking at, first of all, how we're gonna react if we start going to the upside to this resistance right here. If we will be able to reclaim the resistance, we can go even higher towards here and then higher towards this level right here. Well, and about the next things, I will update you in the upcoming videos. As you know, I'm updating you every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Smash the like button if you have enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Cheers.